Discourse this morning, we turn our attention to the 8th Southern Africa Youth Forum, which is set to get underway today in the Southern African city of Johannesburg. The gathering brings together young leaders from all 16 member states of the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, ahead of the Regional Leaders Summit. The region's youth are expected to hold discussions on critical issues such as food security, water resilience, sustainable agriculture and climate action. Following the forum's conclusion on Thursday, delegates are expected to produce recommendations to regional policy makers. Now, to speak to us a little bit more about this, we are joined now by our guest this morning, that is Princess Mojapelo, who is a member of the South African Youth Parliament. And a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to yourself and your listeners as well.
Good, Your Royal Highness, to start with the meetings that were held in the lead up to this and what you intend to relay, especially to the wider meeting of the regional leaders.
So the meetings up to this point have been to really give a sense of what it is that young people are looking forward to most in contributing to the conversation as well as the policy making when it comes to our agricultural sector and also sustainable development. SAYOF has offered that platform where youth within our SADC region are able to go beyond simply being called or simply being spectators. Now it has offered us an opportunity to have a voice in very important spaces such as the deliberation when it comes to agriculture and the future of our development as a region.
And I realize now that I was under the impression that Princess was your title, so please accept my apologies for the miscommunication there. But let's then lock into the issues. And I want to start with what may seem a tiresome one, but it is an obvious one. 16 SADC member states, but the youth arriving in this country to discuss actions across the SADC region. We already know that at a policy level, SADC regional leaders are already taking decisions on important issues such as migration. They're looking at re-looking and re-signing policies. But what was the sentiment by the Youth Forum around this very, it's a very emotive issue, it's a very explosive issue?
Well, I can say first and foremost, young people are extremely excited because, as I said before, this is a platform that offers us an opportunity now to be able to engage, to table correctly now how we are able to influence policies. It is important that in this time and in this era now more than ever, that youth voice is no longer just an idea, it is action orientated. So I think ahead of now, what is going to be taking place in this coming week is we're going to be not only giving a tribute to the youth that have already taken the steps and actions to contribute to the solutions that we are seeking for in our region, but also to bring more youth and youth involvement in this.
Okay, so let's just first start with some of what you are going to recommend to the regional leaders. I want to start with, and it's a very important issue around food security and water resilience, sustainable agriculture and climate action. But let's first focus on food security and water resilience. We know, for instance, in South Africa, there are many child-headed households. They are quite what a significant number that I know of in Mozambique, particularly in the northern parts. So what was the discussion around this and the recommendations that you are making to the regional leaders?
Well, what is interesting about this forum is that those recommendations are going to be discussed this week so that we're able to form a tabling as the youth parliament, as a SADC youth parliament, to then say, this is what our young participants and youth that are involved with the process are saying, and this is how we can table it so that when we do send it through to the heads of state, they and to our governments, they are able to understand and document as well. You know, it's one of the most important, I think, forums happening right now, really, that gives not just a space on the media, but also it gives a voice for youth to involve themselves and to be given an opportunity to involve when it comes to the deliberations of sustainable development, sustainable agriculture, climate resilience, as well as water infrastructure improvements. So all of that will be taking place this week. And then from the final day, which should be from the 23rd, that is when we'll be able to round up all the deliberations, all the inputs, so that they can be properly tabled and therefore then sent through to our governance.
Then perhaps then let me redirect you to ask you to talk to us about what you and your colleagues have recorded in terms of the conditions under which the talks will be taking place. Because yes, you may still need to talk about it, but the factors that underlie the urgency of the not only the topics but the policy changes remain. Southern Africa has amongst the youngest populations, as of course does the rest of Africa, but it's also been hit by droughts and floods and other climate related disasters in recent years. So there are facts and conditions on the ground that will affect how you proceed.
No, of course, definitely. And what I appreciate is not only will youth be involved in this deliberations, but we've also brought in experts when it comes to how are we able to look at the problems and the challenges that we are facing. Another thing that our colleagues here at the SAOF have really wanted to ensure was to use social media as well as a connecting tool. So while we will have delegates here at the venue, we also are joined by over 1,000 young people online who will also be taking part of the conversation, who will also be bringing the input. And then in terms of what we've discussed prior to this to prepare ourselves for this very important theme is two things. The first was within the SADC Youth Parliament, which is a recommendation from SAOF, that parliament, we've got our different committees. And within the different committees, we have deliberated amongst ourselves to say, well, thus far, the research that we've put together, the inputs that we have gotten from our youth peers and people on the ground more specifically, this is what it is that we can present to structure the conversation as well that we'll be having, and to also give a direction as to what it is we are hoping will come out of this week. So I think thus far, that's what I can say. I think you'd have to join in on the forum and have a great look at what it is that we will be discussing, what it is we'll be showcasing, what it is that youth will be deliberating upon, to give you even better idea of what it exactly will come out of this forum. And most importantly, what we are seeking is not just solutions that youth are carrying, but also means of accountability that our heads of states and our leaders do hear the calls that young people have, do hear the inputs, and that this is a platform that allows for us to finally have an influence in legislature or in policies, in policy making for this particular theme.
Anything that is not on the agenda that you personally or some of your compatriots feel ought to be?
I think what is currently for the theme that we are going for, the greater part of what will be surrounding the theme is these following: it's mutual and regional regional development and as well as integration. So us understanding how our neighbors and how our interactions towards one another will help us to improve on the developments that we'd like within our various countries. The ideals of climate resilience. What does that mean for young people in terms of capital, perhaps to fund their solutions, whether it's also market access? You know, when we talk about agriculture as a theme, there's so much opportunities within there that I don't think we have had opportunity to really gauge. So this forum will allow for us to see, okay, this is what young people are actively doing to redevelop rather the solutions that they've put forth. And then as well as emerging artificial intelligence and ways in which the platform of technology can also help with our integration, with our development, because it is something that we cannot ignore, and neither can we deny that AI is gaining quite a lot of strength. So how do we also use that in relation to the climate, the state of the climate currently, in relation to the state of our development? How do we use that to improve the means that we are moving forward with?
Thank you very much, Princess Mojapelo, South Africa's representative to the Southern Africa Youth Parliament, speaking to us ahead of the opening of the 8th Southern Africa Youth Forum in Johannesburg. It brings us to 8:22.
Your life, your rhythm, your Africa.